Perhaps you've heard something like this in your home. Hurry up. It's time to go. Do you think we've got all day? We're going to be late. And I don't want to have to tell you again to move it. Well, I can tell you I've heard that conversation in our house before. Having raised 3 kids, I think that I've usually, or that many times I said these, and I usually ended it up by throwing just a small tirade in order to get everybody moving and out the door and to where we're supposed to be on time. Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy 4, verses 9 through 13, that'll be our text, 2 Timothy 4, 9 through 13. Paul told Timothy to do your best to come to me soon, in verse 9. And then in verse 21 he says, do your best to come to me before winter. There's a sense of urgency in this writing. The truth is, Paul may be feeling alone, if not completely alone. It was the winter of Paul's life, and there were a few things that he wanted. As we walk with Paul through these final words, I pray that we'll be focused on doing what we consider important, urgent, and desired before our own winter comes. The first point I want to make is the importance of the next generation of church leaders. It's important that we consider that. Right now in the congregation, we are giving that some consideration. Seeking out men, suggesting men that we think would serve well as deacons or as elders. And I hope you're prayerfully considering those things. But the church needs to realize the importance of raising up leaders within the congregation. It's not just young people going to be the church tomorrow. We know that young people are the church today. But young people are going to be the leaders of the church tomorrow. Some of us who are in the winter of our life need to be encouraging those who perhaps are in the spring of their life to consider serving the Lord and encouraging them to do so. I'd like for us to read 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. Do your best to come to me quickly, for Demas, because he has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, and Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to me in my ministry. Now, that's quite a change from what Paul had been before. But Paul sees the value in Timothy and in Mark taking over as leaders in the congregation. He understood how important Barnabas was going to be in the coming church. Paul loved to travel. The reason he liked to go is because he liked to tell the story of Jesus. And Paul knew that these young men, Timothy, Barnabas, and others, that these young men were going to be the ones to continue the story. They're the ones that are going to go on after him. His time was about over. And so he's ready to pass the torch to this younger generation who will continue preaching and teaching the Word of God and traveling to many places in order to do so. Paul says to Timothy, come to me soon and bring Mark with you. Many remember when Paul was so upset with Mark. Barnabas, as a matter of fact, took Mark with him because Barnabas saw the importance of not destroying this young man's zeal and young man's character and his desire to serve the Lord. And so Barnabas says, come on, Mark. And Paul went a different way. Paul was upset with Mark. And I think upset with Barnabas as well for perhaps not backing him, he thought, on this question. But now Paul has changed his mind. Perhaps it's because he has seen the way that Mark has grown. He has seen the way that Mark has matured, and how Mark is certainly ready to take his place in the leadership of the church. It took 10 or 20 years in order for him to get there, but he's there. That's a reminder to those of us who perhaps are in the winter of our lives, not to give up on the younger generation. I realize that sometimes younger folks can be a bit frustrating. Sometimes older adults just shake their heads and wonder at the immaturity of the younger. Paul knows that now's the time to lift up the next generation of leaders, to let them take a stronger role within the church now, so that they will be ready to lead the church then. It's important for us to understand how we are to raise up a generation of leaders to take over. Paul speaks with urgency in his words, telling Timothy to come quickly, come before winter. Why? Well, maybe it is that Paul realized how hard and difficult it would be to travel in the winter, and Paul was ready for him to come quickly and wanted him to be there and not be delayed by winter travel. And if Timothy is going to be coming, he wanted him to come right now. It's important. But as much as Paul wanted Timothy and Mark, as blessed as he was by having Luke there's something personal that Paul wanted. Paul wanted them to bring his cloak and to bring his books and his parchments. Heard a story about Henry. Henry was an old man, and he was downsizing. He was moving out of the house that he had lived in for 50 years and moving into a small apartment. He had recently lost his wife, and he was all alone, and so the apartment seemed like a good idea to him. He realized, too, that he was in the winter of his life, that his death was certainly not too far away. He asked for his friend Bruce to come and help him go through his personal things as he was deciding what to take and what not to take. Bruce didn't really want to do that. None of us really want to help someone else go through their personal things and make decisions like that. But after asking several times, Bruce relented, and he went to help his friend Henry. Bruce was excited to see that when he got there was only one box left, and it was a shoe box, and it was sitting on the kitchen table. Henry asked Bruce to come over and sit at the table with him. Said he wanted him to see some of those personal things. First of all, he pulled out his wife's death certificate and talked about their marriage, how long they had been together, how much they had meant to each other. They were unable to have any children, so it was just him and her through all of these years. And then he pulled out a picture of his mother, and he showed that to Bruce, and he said, "My mother made sure that I read my Bible. And it started out when I was just a baby. She would read the Bible to me every night before I went to sleep." And then he had some newspaper clippings. He'd worked at the same place, at the same mill for 40 years, and it was an important job that he had, and he'd received many certificates of appreciation for the work that he had done. Then he put everything back into the old shoebox, put the lid back on it, thanked Bruce, and he said, that's all. That's all I needed you for. What's important to you? When you come to the end of your life, what will be the most important things for you to keep? What's in your shoebox? Paul wanted his cloak, his books, and his parchments. Someday, within the next short while, my plans are to retire from full-time preaching. Don't know exactly when that's going to be yet. That will be announced shortly. And one of the things that I've wondered about is, what will I do with all these books? I've accumulated a few over 50 years of preaching. So what will I do with these books? Well, I have a nephew and his son who are still preaching, doing different things in different places, although they work full-time at something else. But they've expressed an interest in what I have. And that makes me glad to think that somebody is going to be using those things that were so important to me through all these years. We need to feel the emotion and urgency in this passage. Paul had sent some people to different places. Others had left him. Some activity worked against him. The devil certainly doesn't like the gospel being preached. But Paul knew at all times and in all situations that God saves. Remember the story of Daniel in the lion's den? Paul does. Remember how Daniel was put there because of his faith, because he believed in Jesus? Paul knows, or he believed in Jehovah. Paul knows. I want you to listen to Paul in verses 16 through 18. At my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. And I was delivered from the lion's mouth. Oh, Paul remembered that story. And Paul reminds us that we're not alone even when we feel alone. Paul reminds us that God knows how to protect those who belong to Him, and even in death, bring them with Him. Paul's confidence in God is the same confidence that we need, same confidence that we can have. So here at the end of the recorded words of the Apostle Paul, we hear him speak to the young man he loved like a son, and he simply said, "Come before winter." I've had many blessings in my life. There are a few times when I felt alone, but I knew it wasn't. I've been blessed with many good friends. Many good friends whose friendship has lasted throughout our lives, although a good number of them have gone on now. But they treated me like a friend, and they loved me even though they knew me so well. I appreciated each and every one of them as we walked in this life together. And now, the Apostle Paul knows that his time is coming to an end. He's in the winter of his life. And looking in the shoebox of his life, he sees what's important to him. But nothing so important to him as Timothy and Mark and all of those who continue to proclaim the Word of God. I want to encourage the congregation here to encourage our younger men and women, giving them the wisdom and the guidance and support they need as they take on the leadership of this congregation. And may the Lord bless you and keep you as you journey through life.